The Situation Room broadcasts every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Spice FM. We are also live on KTN Home for 2 hours. That's between 7 and 9. And therefore, welcome to our audience on KTN Home. We are also live for all the 4 hours online. Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. And spicefm.co.ke. As we begin the hour, every hour, we start with the day's proverb from C.T. Muga.
No matter how big a child is, they cannot deny that they were once carried on the back of a woman.
No matter how big a child is, they cannot deny that they were once carried on the back of a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's true. Okay. We'll see why you picked this one today and then how we apply it in everyday life. Let's have a conversation about the hospitality sector in this COVID-19 period. We've had many conversations around this. We have talked to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of tourism. We have talked to the associations that represent the players in this sector. This is the Hotel Keepers Association. We've talked to the Kenya Tourism Federation. We have talked to the Pubs and Restaurant Owners Association. And all of them have said the same thing. COVID-19 really came, and even before the 13th of March, when the first case was announced by the government, hotels had already started suffering, and restaurants and such establishments, because there was the order to reduce the movement into them. There was also the discouragement from hosting international events, especially those that now were relying very much on conference tourism, hit immediately. During that period, hotels actually went and shut down, and they sent their staff home. And the government heard their plea, and the government, through the president, announced some package for the hotel industry. So a couple of billions shillings that was to go to the sector players to help them stay afloat, to help them be able to pay some of their workers. A lot of work was said to be done, and I have got to be very clear that I say said, was announced by the government. Whether that happened or not is another conversation, because many of the sector players that we've spoken to have said, I have not received a shilling. I haven't actually been able to access any kind of support from this stimulus package that was announced by the government. But we've seen hotels now starting to reopen, pushing a lot on domestic tourism. And we had a conversation on domestic tourism. What is it that these establishments need to do, bearing in mind that the customer that you're looking for has also had a severe hit on their incomes. So what is the status of this presently? It's a conversation that, you keep having, and you also have people that who work in these facilities, and what they tell you, yes, we are seeing an increase in numbers. Of course, coming from 0, even 10 is a good sign for many of these establishments. But do you feel like enough has been done to support them?
There's what I think has been done, and there's what those in the industry know has been done or has not been done. You see, as a consumer of that particular product, I would look at it from the point of view as my favorite joint, my favorite haunt, is it still operational? And if it is, what is it that they are doing that post-COVID, because there will be a post-COVID period, what will they be doing to ensure that those high standards of hygiene, those high standards, everything around it that we've gained from COVID are maintained? But significantly, there is the issue of employment, and there's the issue of just the business. Because many of these businesses rent the premise in which they work.
Yep.
So if there are no clients coming in, then you don't have the money. You don't have the wherewithal to ensure that you meet your obligations. Then with reduced patronage, do you still maintain the staff levels that you had or the staff complement that you had before? Now, these are issues that I think this particular industry are facing more than any other. Because second only to, in my opinion, education, where schools had to shut down, they were truly hit. And I think recovery is not anywhere in the horizon. It'll take some time before you can even say that they have recovered, as in they've sorted out the losses they made and have started moving into profitability. I think right now that industry is simply just seeking to keep going.
Just finding ways to stay afloat.
Yes.
And for you to stay afloat, you have to invest, because you're talking about putting in all these measures to observe the protocols for COVID-19, have sanitation, have regular cleaning, have maintain, observe social distancing in your restaurant and in the pubs. So that means that you have reduced the number of patrons who are in your facility at any one time. All these come with a cost. But let's have the conversation with one of the sector players. This is the general manager of ibis Styles Hotels in Nairobi. His name is Stuart Clay. Good morning, Clay.
Good morning, Eric. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
You've had our introduction. You guys had a hit. I mean, I don't even need to ask you how bad it was. So let's not even focus on how bad it was. Let's talk about the recovery period. When did you reopen? What has it been? What experience have you had so far?
We were lucky to reopen the hotel in June of this year, following the presidential and the safety announcement that was brought in by the Cabinet Secretary Bilala, who I heard you mention earlier, has been very supportive of the industry segment. Like you've said, Eric, with your team, it's been very tough, very challenging to reopen the doors with the safety, with the new hygiene regulations, with the wash hand basins, the sanitizing, the masks, the signage, cost the company in the region of over $500,000. And this cost is still increasing because obviously when floor signage gets worn out, we have to replace. Masks have to be available to our guests every day should they want them. And we go through a lot more sanitizer and hand gel to keep our guests safe. So the cost is not over by any means. While this global pandemic continues, we have to really look after the safety of all our guests across the hospitality industry. So the costs haven't gone back to normal in any way yet.
What's the patronage like? Are we seeing more people coming? After some of these restrictions were lifted in country, do you see more people coming in to patronize? Have the numbers increased?
Internationally, regrettably, no, not yet. Domestically wise, it's like, again, you were discussing a few minutes ago. It's how we create domestic offers for our guests to make it value, to help people get out of their homes. When you consider the long lockdown that we've been closed for, the curfews in the various cities. So it's how creative offers have come up with, and this is where staycations have come into the forefront to provide guests with value offers. Accommodation is still very much on its knees. However, the food and beverage side of the business is showing small signs of some recovery.
Was the local market your target before COVID?
Yes, definitely. Ibis Styles is a budget property. We're there to provide value to our guests, and the Kenyan marketplace has always been one of our key audiences. However, we do rely on the international corporate business to keep us on reasonable occupancy levels as well.
There's been a lot of talk about making establishments such as yours affordable to locals. Let me just ask, what really, in terms of just Kenya shillings on a daily basis, is considered affordable? Affordable in the sense that it's something that people can afford to pay, but it's something that doesn't guarantee that you actually go at a loss with your business.
We currently have a weekend staycation offer where we think we're trying to offer value to our guests. This runs every Thursday to Sunday inclusive, and we offer a room package at 4,000 for two, or a bed and breakfast with an all-you-can-eat breakfast at 6,000 for two, and that includes all taxes and service. We feel that's good value to our guests, and while we are not making a loss, we are not making huge money, but we're there to get people back to realising hospitality is safe and welcoming for all.
So this is 4,000 bed and breakfast per day between Thursday and Sunday.
Sorry, 4,000 is the room only.
Okay.
and 6,000 is the bed and breakfast. And like you say, that's Thursday to Sunday, yes.
So how much was the rate before this? How much were you charging per room only before you brought up this offer?
The rate was 9K before the offer for one person, and then there'd be a supplement for a second person in the room.
Okay, so many would say that if you look at what the offers the hotels have come up with, it's still not enough to make people want to move out and venture into staycations and such other packages. What would you say to that? I mean, is this the lowest you could really go to?
That is the lowest we could really go to. And if you look around Kenya as a whole, the coast have made very good offers for guests to visit all the coast resorts, and they've come up with a good working forum with the new Kenyan coast to bring more business in. The Mara during the migration season did wonderful domestic tourism rates, and that opened up Mara on the weekends, so the lodges could stay at least open and get some business in. And people benefited, or Kenyans and local residents benefited from seeing a migration where other years it may not have been affordable.
Stu, do you think that this way of then doing business could essentially save the sector? Because it is clear that international travel will take a while before it picks up. I mean, that is clear to everybody. But then you also have a great resource right here in country that could actually help to lift the status from on its knees to maybe standing and toddling in a while. So do you see that the domestic market could essentially raise the profile of the hospitality sector in terms of percentages and numbers?
I would 100% agree. And like we saw, regrettably, after the post-election violence a few years ago, domestic tourism was the key to winning back business and keeping hotels open, and more importantly, local people who have been trained in hospitality employed.
How do you ensure that this information reaches the entire width and breadth of potential clients that you could have?
Well, you are being great supporters of, media is being a great supporter of the relaunch of domestic tourism within Kenya. We all have our digital platforms that we use, and it's networking with our partners. It's showing guests that we are safe, that we are open, that we are available, and reassuring them that we are not going to pack our venues. We are not going to bring in too many people to compromise safety. We're going to encourage social distancing and have all the safety measures in place, so when a guest does come to a hospitality outlet or a hotel, they feel welcome, they feel safe, and they feel valued. So when they come for a staycation or an offer, they feel value for money, and
So go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, I'm looking at examples around the world where, you know, hotels, restaurants, these establishments had closed, but there was a kind of in-sector patriotism that took place where people felt the need that they could still patronize their favorite restaurant, their favorite hotel, and even though they did receive some support from government, you saw that if a hotel was closed, for example, people still would go for the takeaway service of a restaurant, for example, things like that. Can we get to the point where people have some kind of brand ownership or feel that they're part of a sector so much so that even if something like this does hit, this sector can remain afloat, something that, you know, is the country outside of Kenya is known for in terms of its hospitality? Do you think we can get to the point where people patronize it so much so that regardless of, it would remain afloat? And what do you think that needs to be done in order to have that status achieved?
we definitely need the government support. Cabinet Secretary Bilala, Magical Kenya, Destination Kenya have been of great support to us. One thing that is magical about Kenya, that is known around the world, is the service and the welcoming of by the local teams. You see this when you get people working in Dubai from Kenya. You get feedback from the guests. The Kenyan spirit is very welcoming, it's very open, and I believe that is known around the world. The more we can publicise it, like you say, with your support, the more we can win guests. A lot of hotels, or the majority of hotels, have loyalty programs as well. This is there to make guests feel welcome, guests feel loyal to a brand, like you're talking about, and we value their custom.
Stu, I look at the number of establishments that have come up, the hotel and hospitality sector establishments that have come up in Nairobi in the last 10 years, and one can't help but wonder, are we overcrowded? Just look at where you are. Ibis Styles is in Westlands. Just around you, there are a couple of other establishments that have come up that are competing with you. Do you think we had reached a point of oversaturation, or do we still have more demand and less supply?
I think there is room for growth still within the industry. We are currently getting near an oversupply point. However, saying that, when you look at the growth in corporate offices, when you look at the new road infrastructure that the government is putting in place from the two airports to the Westlands area, to the central business district, this will alleviate traffic, and hospitality usually comes first, and then the corporate offices and the businesses come in. When you look at Dubai a few years ago, there was nothing there. Now it is a very busy area, very busy city. I see the same happening in Kenya in years to come. And the fact more international brands are coming in, more growth is happening within our own brand, Accor. It is exciting times, and it will lead to better value for guests, better service, because as there is more supply, the people with the best service are the ones that win and keep the loyal customers.
Have you felt the pressure, or are you feeling the pressure from the emergence of furnished apartments around where you are? Because we see very many of them in Nairobi, and they're targeting the sort of same clientele that you target.
I think you will always get a client who will look for a service department if they are here for a month or longer. You have hotels opening now, or in the process of opening, that are both. They are apart hotels and hotels combined. I think we will possibly see more of this in the future. However, you will always get those people that are coming for a few days that need comfortable hotel accommodation. And again, the new partnerships with Destination Kenya are there to bring more conferences into the country. As we get more conferences into the country, there will be more people coming for a few days, so there will be more need for value, fair price, clean, comfortable accommodation.
I'd like to ask what it is, and or rather how it is you've managed to cater for the needs of your employees in these COVID times. What have you done? And God forbid that we have another pandemic. What plans would you recommend that people in your line of work put in place so that should such a thing occur, they're at least able to weather it better?
But basically, it's constantly looking at costs, looking at number of guests. We looked after our team for as long as we possibly could, but like we've seen across the industry, so far this pandemic in Kenya alone has claimed some 230,000 jobs, and I don't think that number is going to realistically stop. I think we're not out of it yet. Like you say, when we've discussed earlier in a question, we're not seeing a recovery of international guests starting to come back till around Q2 next year. Realistically, when the industry will fully recover, we're looking at 2023 is what all organisations or market bodies are saying. So by no means are we coming out. while there is some great news on vaccines, we need a plan. The Kenyan government needs a plan for us. So when these vaccines do become available and we do relaunch, we can recover our staffing levels. This is going to be key because there is no real backup support for a lot of team members out there from the government if they're not in work. So we need the government support in reopening Kenya, making Kenya safe, having a vaccine that is available, so when guests come in, they feel a lot more comfortable.
Stu, where do you think partnerships play in all of this? So we've seen that again, looking around the world for examples, we find that those who have then entered into strategic partnerships to be able to build up their clientele seem to have succeeded, whether it's partnerships with low budget airlines, whether it's partnerships with global networks in terms of bringing guests into your doors, whether it's partnerships on the local level, again, bringing guests into the doors, bumping up domestic tourism and things like that. Where do you think this all plays in this process?
I think it's I believe it's a critical role at the minute. Partnerships like you've seen are key. I am very, very grateful to you and the team for allowing me here today. This has given us great support. Your listeners are now aware that we offer a great value staycation. Without this kind of support from yourselves, our guests out there and guests for hospitality as a whole are not aware what we're doing as an industry to welcome guests back.
Stuart Clay, the General Manager of Ibis Hotel in Nairobi, thank you very much for speaking to us and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much as well. Keep safe and well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.